I told you months ago to watch Europe. They're ahead of us. They first tried all the things that we're embarking on, and they are ahead of us in everything. George Soros warned the world this weekend that Europe could be on the verge of disintegrating if they don't muster up the political will to survive. His solution? More bailouts, more spending. That's like telling a cancer patient, smoke some more. A couple of months ago, I told you that the far left and the far right, the fringes of Europe, will come out of the woodwork and they will gain power. Well, Greece today is now on the verge of collapse. Billions in bailouts have only delayed the inevitable. The unrest there is growing. The violence is growing as well. This far-left militant guerrilla groups have been launching bomb attacks, and who's been helping them? Who's part of the riots? The unions. Why? Because over in Greece, and see if this sounds familiar, they promised their pensions, they promised too big of pensions, and now the government can't pay for it. And so they're stirring up the trouble. The far right now is gaining power after elections in Hungary. This was over the weekend. In South Africa, hundreds gave the Nazi salute. How do we not remember swastika flags at the funeral of a prominent white supremacist? How do we forget this soon? The world is on the edge, and I believe that there are people like George Soros of the world that are pushing it farther off that edge. There are profound changes coming right around the corner. It's what we do about those changes. The world, I fear, is about to make the same mistakes that were made in the 1930s. America must be strong. I want to show you something. This was all done for the good of our country, but this is why you have to understand it's a global issue. It's not America. Barack Obama, George Bush, nobody can fix it with the old kind of thinking. No party. This is way beyond party. In the 1960s, we had mutually assured destruction. It was to stop us from bombing each other. Okay, we were all afraid of nuclear war. We were afraid the missiles were going to come over the pole and they were going to kill us from Russia, and we were going to send our missiles over there and we'd vaporize each other. Well, Carroll Quigley announced in his book, I think it was in 1962, the tragedy was global war. The hope was it will never happen again. Because, as he announced in this book, what they did was they tied all of our economies together. So now, if one country was destroyed or would destroy another, they would all collapse. They'd all go down the toilet. And so they would have motivation to stop anybody. And he said in 1962, you'll never see a world war again. You'll never see one country go in and obliterate another. It won't happen. Gee, think of all the wars that have been fought by us since 1962. Is there any doubt in your mind that we could have finished in Pakistan? We could have finished in Iraq? Had we unleashed the full might and power of the United States of America? Ask yourself the question, why didn't we? Because we're all tied together economically. What's happening right now when the president says, oh, everything's fine, we're in the eye of the storm. It's a hurricane. We've just been battered around. It's calm. But there is another wall of this storm coming, and we're out on the open waters. It's still gathering strength. The weathermen are telling everybody, oh, it's okay, go out. We have radar now. We can look at the numbers. You know, I painted these paintings, and the one with George Washington is Hope. And I put George Washington here because he told the truth. He told the truth. The only way to have hope is to have the truth. If you go to a doctor and the doctor says to you, you've got cancer, you don't say to the doctor, why are you engaging in the hate speech? Why do you hate everybody like me? I don't hate you. You have cancer. I'm trying to help you. No, no, no. You know, there are too many people now in America that don't even understand the truth anymore. It's been so long since they've heard the truth, they confuse it with hate. Don't confuse the truth with hate. If you don't believe this doctor, go to another doctor. But find one that engages in the truth. If they want to save your life, they'll tell you the same damn thing. A correct diagnosis gives you a chance at survival. It's the same thing with our country. Radical steps need to be taken, but every day we deny that we have cancer, it's going to be harder and harder for us to cure. Somebody said to me, I don't know, a few weeks ago, people aren't going to do it. There will be civil unrest because when they figure out that the Treasury has been looted and there's a different future for their kids coming up, they're not going to sacrifice and they'll take the easy way. They won't give up entitlements. I think the greatest American generation is the one that is alive today, the one that just steps to the plate. The good news is we've done this before. After America's first bout with radical progressivism in the early 20th century, we had chemotherapy and we rooted it out and we fixed it quickly. There are three ways to fix the mess that we're in right now. There are three ways. First, you can cut spending. Second, raise taxes. Or three, print money, which is inflate the money. So far, we have done this one and this one, but instead of cutting spending, we've spent faster. How does that work? Look, there's no difference between the government and your house. In your house, if you were in this situation, what would you do? What would you do? You would get another job. That would be raise tax revenue. I'll explain the Laffer curve with Art Laffer here in a second. Raise tax revenue. And the second is cut spending. These people aren't interested in raising tax revenue. They're into redistribution of wealth and fairness. We must cut spending. Significant, massive budget cuts all across the board. And we have to stop devaluing our dollar. Now, right now, some viewers might say, thank God, this idiot's not president. He'd destroy us. Half of the audience is cheering. First of all, I'd like to hear a better answer. Spending is not it. But for anybody who's cheering, I want to warn you, there's a good chance by the end of the week, when you see just the beginning of one plan that has been laid out by Cato, I have news for you. You're not going to be cheering. Everybody's going to feel the pain on this one. The one thing said about socialism is that everyone's against it until you get a handout. Right now, 70% of America gets more money in benefits from the government than they pay in. That has got to stop. There cannot be any sacred cows. Everything has to be on the table. It's not just the turtle tuttles or the pills for grandma or the bombs for defense. You name it, it has to be on the table. So all week, we'll do the heavy lifting. We'll start to look at the budget. And we'll look at it unlike anything I've ever seen before, in recent memory, at least by government. We'll look at the budget the way any sane person would, the way you would in your home. But first, I want to give you a little bit of hope. I want to stop with a forgotten lesson in American history. We'll do that coming up. This is going to be quite an amazing week as we decide whether we're going to transform into what or restore. But if we want to restore the country, it's going to take an awful lot of work. But here's the hope. We've done it before. And it stands as one of America's greatest economic achievements. And yet there is a good chance you have never, ever heard of it. Reams have been written about the Great Depression and FDR's colossal government expanding New Deal, but you would be hard-pressed to find even a mention in most history books that we have in our classrooms about this amazing turnaround 10 years prior. The year was 1920. The newly elected Warren G. Harding was inheriting a mess from his predecessor, Woodrow Wilson. He didn't give speeches about how he inherited it. The country was in a depression with record unemployment, massive debt, and a bloated and inefficient federal government. It was as bad as anything in 1929 or 1930. They didn't use a stimulus package or tax increases. What was the secret? How did we get out of it? Watch this.